Bridgewater re-signing with the Broncos for the next hour. Welcome, everybody, to the Happy Hour podcast. I am your host, Ricky Valero. On today's episode, we're going to have just a little bit fun with the free agency, right? There's a lot going on. There's a lot of moving pieces. There's a lot of bad in some of these positions. It's very lackluster, but there's some really deep pieces that I think could be moving as well. Fox and I are just going to look at the key positions, give us our thoughts and maybe some value within these positions and maybe take a look at some guys where we think they might land in the long run. And then, of course, we'll top it off with our movie corner. As always, I'm joined by my partner here, Mr. Fox. How are you today, buddy?
Doing good. Starting to come out of the deep freeze. We have not seen 32 degrees since 5 p.m. on Monday. We may get it this afternoon. If not this afternoon, then tomorrow. I was just happy we saw double digits yesterday because we hadn't seen those in a couple of days. It's between that and, as you know, it was a little bit of a stressful week at work. It's been exciting, but I'm excited to look ahead at football. We are not very far away. Free agency kicks off on March 16th, which means the legal tampering period starts 2 weeks from Monday.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think there's a lot of good moving pieces within some of these positions that we'll be able to really reflect on. I've seen a lot of people like this is the type of time of year where I'm like really kind of questioning why so many people publish so many different rankings and talk about this is where I have this guy, this is where I have this guy. Like one moving piece can really fluctuate in entire rankings, right? You know, you can have a top dog sign with a contender and it really affects the target share. That it can really affect what you think that bottom line might be, and it fluctuates them from being your number one guy to maybe your number 5 or number 2 to number 10, or, you know, somebody can move from your bottom 20 to 30 range and move them all the way up to the top 15 because of a landing spot. There's so many different things. And then, of course, when it comes to weapons, like, what if Davante Adams signs with the Raiders? Like that moves Derek Carr up the food chain. You know what I mean? It's very early in the process, and we're going to kind of talk about a lot of these different guys in the positions: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. And speaking of that quarterback position, it's very lackluster when it comes to what's available on the open market. Now, obviously,
still better than the draft.
Well, yeah, it probably really is at the end of the day. But when you look at it, the trading pieces that could potentially, we'll put in quotations here, could potentially be available, you know, with the likes of potentially an Aaron Rodgers or potentially a Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson. Those type of pieces are movable pieces that could really alter the course of fantasy football, period. Like they really can. Like a Russell Wilson going to a different team, it could really, I mean, depending on the team, depending on the landing spot, really fluctuates his ranking. And Aaron Rodgers really fluctuates not just his ranking, but those around him's rankings, right? The wide receivers. Let's say he does go to a Denver Broncos. Like that rank, that moves the Cortland Sutlins, the Javonte Williams, that moves those guys up and down certain places that they wouldn't have that same relevancy if a Teddy Bridgewater comes back, right? You know, so there's a lot of pieces that can move. But if you look at the top 5 pieces that are available here that for via free agency, you do have Teddy Bridgewater. You have Jameis Winston coming off the injury. Marcus Mariota, Mitchell Trubisky, both guys looking to really get another chance at the starting gig. Like they're looking to kind of really capitalize after learning for a little while. You know, Mariota, you know, kind of got stuck in Tennessee and then kind of moved on and has been the backup there in Las Vegas the last, I think, 2 seasons, is it now?
Yeah, 2 seasons.
2 seasons. And then Mitchell Trubisky, you know, we know the history behind Mitchell Trubisky, spent a year learning behind Josh Allen. And that's the type of thing that I like to see out of these young guys. Like you come out and you kind of fold, right? I would like to see Mitchell Trubisky in maybe a different offense. You know what I mean? And Marcus Mariota in a different – when Mariota has been on the field for the Raiders, he's looked pretty good. And I would like to see him maybe get the keys somewhere and maybe get that one last chance. Maybe he isn't the guy. Maybe he isn't the guy that, you know, he potentially could be. But looking at this top – and then, of course, we have Andy Dalton. But that's – I mean, if that's your 5th best option in the free agent pile, this free agent pile is really – I don't know. I think you might be better off signing me. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm just saying. I'm available, but I'm just saying.
Dalton probably, based on what we've seen, should this year end up going back to a situation like where he was 2 years ago in Dallas, which is, I thought it made perfect sense coming in, at the time in that Dallas where you have a decent money veteran backup. We've seen so many quarterbacks get knocked out, and so many of these teams don't have anything behind a stud quarterback. And even if you have a really great team, what are you going to do? So I think it would behoove a contender.
It would surprise me to see him go back to Dallas. Like, it would be the perfect fit. Like, I think it would be a perfect fit.
Because he still has a home there, as far as
So, like, I think it's a perfect fit for him.
So Bridgewater, not my favorite quarterback. You cannot deny he had something of a career year. He was a decent starter. I feel like he's entering that phase of his career where he might be a bridge or a veteran to a team that's got a very good core where they just need somebody who's not going to kill them. There's been a lot of rumors he may end up going back to New Orleans, and he did pretty well there, but he did pretty well there with Sean Payton. I don't know if that's the most natural fit. I think he's going to be in demand because of what we've seen. I don't think he ends up going back to Denver. None of the comments out of their coaches, they've actually, ironically, both their head coach and offensive coordinator have talked about how much they like Drew Lock, and I don't know what to make of that, other than maybe they're going to just try to roll with that and draft somebody. I honestly have thought for a long time that Denver's going to end up taking a quarterback in the first or the second round this year and see what they can put together, maybe grab another lower end veteran. I don't think they want to spend, I understand Bridgewater wants to get money, and based on the market and where he stands in the market, he probably can command that. The couple that are the most interesting to me on this list, Jameis Winston wasn't terrible, but we didn't see much of a sample size. I don't know where he ends up. That's another murky one. That maybe he does end up right back in New Orleans just because he's already there. But Mariota, there's been a lot of interest and speculation in Mariota. I think he has nobody's stock rose more by sitting on a bench than Mariota and Mitch Trubisky. Because last year I was not convinced he was the problem in Chicago, and we saw a season where we now know he was not the only problem in Chicago. I'm not saying he's wonderful, but I don't think he got the credit. He looked at we made jokes about Allen Robinson was going to have the best quarterbacks he'd ever had in his career with Justin Fields and Andy Dalton. I'm not entirely sure that was correct based on what we saw of the production in that offense. I wanted Denver to sign Mitch Trubisky last year because I thought that would be a good lower barrier veteran option to compete with Drew Lock. I still wouldn't be disappointed. I know there are probably Broncos fans out there that are losing their mind. Is Mitch Trubisky a great long-term answer? I don't know, but he probably doesn't command the salary of some of these guys and could be somebody that needed a clean, fresh shot with the offense in Chicago wasn't functional. They got Nagy, the quarterback he wanted in Justin Fields, and he made him look terrible. He couldn't make it work with Foles. He couldn't make it work, any quarterback he pulled in. So I'm not willing to say it was all Mitch Trubisky. So I think those two are the most interesting to me out of that group, getting a second chance.
I agree with you 100% there. For me, Mitchell Trubisky, I think that he is a very solid option. He's a type of guy I think you put like a 2-year deal on, and that second year is a team option, maybe even a player option. You know what I mean? You sign him, you give him, 1 year, $10 million here, and then you give him $5 million in incentives. If you do this X, Y, and Z, you can earn up to this much money. I really feel like, and Mariota, my favorite spot for Mariota is Pittsburgh, 100%. I love that spot so much. And I think you do the same thing with him. You call him up, hey, we'll give you a chance to compete with the job with Mason Rudolph, and then he wins the job by just walking in the front door. But I feel like Marcus Mariota to me is you give him that one. I feel like you give him and Mitchell Trubisky, I think, get the same contract. It's a prove me contract that you incentivize with so many different incentives. Hey, if you meet this, if you start this many games, you get this amount, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, it's a prove me deal. But then, of course, you always also have that second year of that contract in case he does prove it to be as good as he can be. But Mariota in Pittsburgh makes way too much sense. And I don't see as many people talking about this landing spot as much as some of the other ones that I've seen. I've seen even Green Bay mentioned if Aaron Rodgers leaves. I don't hate the idea of him in Denver. I like that land. I think that he's a very good mobile quarterback, that if he has learned, like Carr is an underrated quarterback. Like I feel like he gets a lot more shit than he deserves, and he might not be as consistent as a top tier, but he is definitely in the middle of the pack of that 10 to 15 range. He's not a bad guy. He's not a bad starter. And everybody's always, I just don't understand the hate regarding him. Like, he does good with what's around him.
And what would make sense to me about Mariota to Pittsburgh is there's been a lot of mock drafts for NFL drafts that have linked them to possibly taking a Malik Willis. And I think a Malik Willis has maybe some raw tools, but would, much like a Trey Lance, would be better served being behind somebody.
Yep.
Mason Rudolph's game and Malik Willis's game don't seem as close as maybe a Marcus Mariota, who is a runner and is a mobile guy, and a Malik Willis. But Mariota has traditionally been a very accurate passer, was very accurate in college, and that's something that has been a little bit of a knock on Willis. That might be somebody that would be a better veteran mentor.
I agree with that. Moving on to the running back position, it looks about as good as these quarterbacks do. We have the all 2000 and maybe 18 team right here. We got Melvin Gordon, Leonard Fournette, James Conner, Chase Edmonds, Cordell Patterson, and then of course Ronald Jones. Now with Melvin Gordon, he's definitely going to be a guy. I feel like he's going to latch on to a contender. I really do. It wouldn't surprise me to see him sign. He doesn't have very many legs on his wheels left. But, I mean, the guy does have 20 touchdowns in the last 2 seasons. You know what I mean? It's not that he's not producing. Just don't sign him anywhere where they have a rookie running back that people like, because then the world will come to an end. But Fournette –
also, don't count on him to hold on to the ball in any crucial situation, because he's going to put it on the ground.
And then, of course, you have the Connor Edmonds comment. Connor had a resurgence just basically with touchdowns alone. He wasn't the most efficient back. Him and Edmonds are like – I don't really know. I don't even really know. Cordell Patterson, I don't know what to make of him. He had the incredible year. Can he recapture that magic again? I'm not willing to overpay for that. Like, I'm not willing to overpay for Patterson for the year that he had. I don't feel like I am. And the thing about it is, it's the running back position, guys. It's if we have taken notice over the last couple of years, even if you look at the numbers from the Super Bowl, I think the last 8 years total, the leading rusher for the Super Bowl winning team did not make as much money as Zeke Elliott did last year. Like, it was incredible, crazy. Like, nobody ever made more than $5 million. I think it's over the last 8 years at the running back position. Everybody was below $5 million. There was even 4 or 5 seasons below. It's like $2.5 million or something like that. Like, so I personally. And, of course, we're coming to the age of there's a lot more dual running backs. There's multiple back systems, stuff like that. So, like, the trend of the workhorse back is not as high as it was, right? So, I don't really love any of these options. I wouldn't throw any money at any of these guys. Maybe Chase Edmonds on a low deal for as a nice number running back too. I don't hate that. I like Edmonds a lot. I think that he got hurt and kind of fluctuated out. Ronald Jones is probably the best option of these guys, but like Melvin Gordon, he likes to put the ball on the ground too sometimes. I don't really know. What do you think about this running back situation?
Yes, I think running back is going to be one of those positions where you don't see a lot of veterans, even the big names, come off the board until after the NFL draft. Because I think teams are looking at it. I wouldn't be surprised if 1 or 2 of them. I think Arizona will keep one of their running backs. I'm actually leaning toward them keeping Connor, because it seemed like he was a better fit for kind of the goal line situations where they don't want Kyler Murray to be killed, because Murray's not a huge quarterback. Edmonds was a fine pass catcher, but I don't think he really ever developed into like the kind of runner that they were looking for. And I just feel like Connor maybe fit that. We need a bigger body when we get in close so that we can preserve our quarterback kind of deal. Tampa Bay is going to be interesting. Fournette was really good for them. Do they want to go get a younger back? That's where I think we may end up having to wait to see how the draft falls. To me, they talk about how deep the class is, and maybe that's because there's a lot of guys in it. As I've looked at it, I'm I feel like there's 2 or 3 that are interesting, and then below that is a lot of gambles. So it might depend on where teams, where Breece Hall, Isaiah Spiller, and Kenneth Walker can fall, as to where teams start patching over with vets. Because we saw that last year. We thought Arizona was going to take a running back in the draft. They didn't end up getting one in a spot they liked, and pretty soon they took James Conner. We thought that, what's Tampa Bay going to do? They decided to just bring everybody and run it back. Atlanta couldn't find any options. They took a shot on Cordero Patterson. Do they end up getting an Isaiah Spiller? In which case, it's like, we don't, if Cordero wants to come back on a low money deal, he fit kind of the chess pieces. But I think it's possible Atlanta goes running back and wide receiver in this draft to try to rebuild their offense, in which case you have younger players that maybe more fit the Arthur Smith scheme that he's trying to run. I feel like he made the most of the pieces he had last year, but it doesn't necessarily mean those are the pieces he wants long term. Melvin Gordon's interesting. The last time Melvin Gordon was a free agent, he signed really late too, because it's not that he doesn't have talent and can't fill a hole. It's, I think people look at the landscape and try to decide what's out there. Fournette might be one of the few that signs pre-draft, just because I think his name value and everything carries. But it's interesting. There's some interesting pieces there, but I would not be surprised if running back is more of a May-June kind of free agent frenzy.
Yeah, it's ugly. It's murky, and the draft class is not top heavy. It's very middle. I think both quarterback and running back in this draft class are kind of underwhelming. Next year's class is a lot stronger for both. Isaiah Spiller is probably my favorite running back in this class. He's phenomenal, dual threat. He was never used right down in A&M. Shout out to my boy Stoops down there. But when it comes to free agency for the wide receiver position, a lot of this can change, especially with this wide receiver position, because the top 2 names off the top, Davante Adams, Chris Godwin, are more, in my opinion, more than likely to be franchise tagged. Green Bay is going to have a hard time getting it under the cap if they franchise tag Adams, but you can't let an Adams walk. You can't. You just can't. Like, it's not, whether it's the franchise tag or even the transition tag, however that looks like, you need to figure that out. But if an Adams I think Godwin's getting franchise tagged 100%. Yeah. I think that's a shoo-in. Adams, I'm like 99% positive, but if an Adams hits the free market, it might be one of the most, like, the best free agent to hit the market in a long time. Like, he is incredible, and he's a game changer. You know what I mean? Like, period. Like, I don't know. Like, he fits anywhere, right? You know what I mean? Like, yeah. That to me is like what you have to, like, you want to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's the type of guy that changes an entire roster with showing up. Like, if he goes to a Las Vegas, that team is incredibly deep at the wide receiver. Like, my thing is this. I love the idea of him going to Las Vegas for several different reasons. Obviously, it's a reuniting of Carr, right? Him and Carr. That's a reuniting there. But if you look at a guy like Hunter Renfrow, who is one of the more underrated wide receivers in this game and one of the best route runners in this game, if you put him on Adams side by side on the on this field together, Renfrow's stock goes through the moon, because Adams commands the attention that not a lot of other people do. Now, the big thing is, I like others, I think Adams is good, right? Obviously, Rodgers makes him great. I think he's not just as good outside of Rodgers, because Rodgers is going to feed him the ball over and over and over and over and over again. And maybe Carr would, or any other quarterback would, but it would be interesting to see him out of that offense, right? Out of the realm of Rodgers, because sometimes it doesn't translate as well, right? He's not the number one wide receiver that we're typically used to seeing, but I still think that no matter where he goes, it's deep. Of course, we have Allen Robinson, who at one point in time was a top 10 receiver in this game, and it just kind of fell off, and that's a lot to do with the Bears. I feel like he had, the injuries haven't really been key there, but I don't feel like the effort has necessarily been there a whole lot either, because he wasn't always seeing the ball maybe the way he wanted to or anticipated. You have Juju Smith-Schuster, Mike Williams, and then, of course, Odell Beckham Jr. But Beckham Jr. is really a kind of guy that's going to sign a one-year kind of contract because we might not see him until potentially December, January, if that, this year because of the tear ACL. I mean, these guys come back a lot faster and crazier than ever, but he's working on the same ACL that he did 2 years ago. But I like Mike Williams too. Big Mike Williams guy. He's a home run guy.
He's another one. The potential is there to get franchise tagged because the Chargers don't have overwhelming depth. And they have Keenan Allen locked up. You need more than one receiver. They don't have overwhelming depth at tight end either. So the question is whether they think they can make all the moves they need in free agency and the draft, or whether they want to try to hold Mike Williams, who seems to fit what they're doing.
Exactly. I agree with you. It'd be interesting because he's going to command a pricey amount. I mean, this wide receiver class is pretty heavy. I mean, you're talking like if you look at Adams, Godwin, Robinson, Mike Williams, that's a pretty heavy like four, and then throw Juju in, who I think Juju's good.
He made a mistake to me last year. He tried to be loyal and take the 1 year. I'm going to go back for Ben's last run, and then ends up getting hurt. And that offense never looked incredibly functional. He had better. He probably would have been better served taking that deal from Kansas City, to be honest, as much as it breaks my heart because I like Juju and I'm not a Kansas City homer. That would have been, or even Baltimore. I could have seen him doing. And so you have to kind of wonder, will the same it's a better wide receiver class probably than anything else in this draft.
Yeah.
So you're going to see some of that. Robinson, I feel like people are willing to look past his 2021 season because if the Bears offense had looked good and he looked horrible, then you're like, oh, I wonder what's going on with him. Their offense looked dysfunctional all over the field. They didn't look like they could give the ball to anyone. They didn't look like they knew what they were doing. They couldn't put together 2 cents to buy a clue.
And I like him, you know what I mean? But like I could see like Juju like doesn't feel like a multi-year deal again, right? Like I don't feel like you can give Juju 3, 2, 3, 4 years on a contract right now. But like even if you look past that tier, right? You know what I mean? We talked about the main 5 there, including OBJ. Like you still have some good ancillary pieces. Will Fuller's still good, but can he keep his head on straight? Now T.Y. Hilton's on the end of his career. AJ Green. You do have Emmanuel Sanders, who did look good at times last year. Let's see. I'm trying to find some good names here, but
I'm completely out on Fuller because he had a great first part of the 2020 season when it turns out he was on performance-enhancing drugs and he fell way off and then was never able to get on the field in Miami. That's huge pause, and that was on a 1-year prove-it deal. AJ Green probably would. I mean, he's probably ready to retire. He's battled injuries. Christian Kirk, because that's going to be a really interesting. So Arizona last year, you would have said they're pretty loaded with weapons. It felt like DeAndre Hopkins fell off a little bit. We never really got what we thought we might have in Rondale Moore. And so they don't have any, Zach Ertz that they traded for, Green, who they signed, Christian Kirk, all free agents. So are both their running backs. You can't replace all that in a draft. And they also, in my opinion, if they want to contend, are going to have to make some upgrades on offensive line and defense at some point because those seem to be incredible liabilities. I'm curious to see what happens there. I get what you're saying, too, about Godwin potentially getting tagged by Tampa Bay, but I think Tampa Bay right now is in a space where they have to figure out what direction they're going to try to go.
Yeah.
If they're going to go get a veteran court, if they get Jimmy G, they probably are franchise tagging Godwin. They're probably trying to bring back Fournette. They're going to try to make a run because their division is wide open.
Yeah.
If they can't get a quarterback, does it make sense for them to blow all their cap space, keeping veterans that, what good is it to have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin if Kyle Trask is your – no, Kyle Trask may develop into something nice, but you're probably not a contender.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. And I think Green Bay's in that same situation too. You know what I mean? Like Green Bay's in that same situation. As every day passes, I'm getting more and more and feeling more and more like Rodgers is going to come back to Green Bay. I really do. I just feel like
he's not leaving.
I don't think he's leaving. And to be honest with you, I kind of wish he would. I just wish he would.
But I thought he might retire. Since the season ended, I never thought he was going to end up on another team. I thought there was a possibility he may retire because he seemed like he was kind of over some of the NFL things. He's been kind of frustrated. But I think Green Bay seems to be actively trying to move Jordan Love. And if that happens, I think that's the last. It's almost like a couple of years ago. It reminded me a couple of years ago with Brady, where the Patriots were trying to keep him and they finally just dealt Jimmy G. And all of a sudden Brady's, re-signed, happy, never wanted to go anywhere else. I feel like that's coming.
Because I wouldn't give this pair of socks for Jordan Love because I think he's terrible. But moving on to the tight ends, another thing which was strange yesterday, I saw that the Carolina Panthers continue to make bonehead mistakes. They gave $8 million signing bonuses to Ian Thomas last night, which I did not understand because the tight end class is not bad.
And they never seem like they actually use Ian Thomas for anything.
No, it's crazy to me. Like you have Gesicki, Schultz, Ertz, Ingram, Njoku. Gronk is Gronk. I think Gronk retires still. Njoku and Ingram could really use for a change of scenery to maybe see if they have potential. I see those guys going and getting 1-year prove-it deals. Wouldn't surprise me there. Ertz, does he have anything left in the tank? If he does, I think that he goes to a contender. He's definitely going to sign somewhere. Even maybe go back to the Cardinals if they can get their lives together. Dalton Schultz is probably my favorite of this crew. I'm a big Dalton Schultz lover.
Yeah, me too.
I think he's incredibly talented, and I think that he can make moves. And Gesicki's not bad himself, right? You know what I mean? Like, I would love to see Gesicki in with a good quarterback. This is my thing.
And there is talk that the Dolphins may franchise tag Gesicki, which I understand from he's good, and you don't have a plethora of receivers. But I don't understand it seems like Miami has been playing out the string with Mike Gesicki for 2 years and had no intention of him being on the team.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know what to make of it.
It's crazy because he's got talent. I think he does. And I would love to see him in a better offense. You know what I mean? With a better quarterback. Like, this is the type of guy that I would love to see ramp up down the football field with somebody that can sling the rock a little bit. No offense to Tua.
Maybe Justin Herbert.
Oh, man, I'm all over that. I'm all over.
They franchised Williams and they signed Gesicki. Their offense is good to go.
Yeah, Gesicki or even Schultz, either one of those guys.
I honestly, then if I'm the Chargers, maybe I look at signing a Chase Edmonds to put behind Austin Eckler, because their big problem is if Eckler gets hurt, they have dog shit behind him right now.
Yeah, they struggle. They don't have consistency. They have like 3 guys that are capable of doing things. None of them can do one of them great, and that's the problem I think they run into when Eckler.
I'm not even willing to say they're capable of doing things.
Well, I didn't say they were capable of being running backs. I was just capable of being warm bodies on the football field. I would love to see the Chargers be aggressive for somebody like Adams if the opportunity arose, because they have cap money. Adams and Allen on the football field with Justin Herbert would be – I know this is just me talking in heaven right now, and it's not going to happen, but I would love to see them make – I'd even like to see them make a play for Allen Robinson if Williams gets –
Actually, that would make a lot of sense. Robinson across from Keenan Allen would probably be a very good pairing for them.
Yeah, because especially if Williams is going to get the big contract from somebody's willing to throw him that. I don't know, even if I am – the Chargers, if I'm willing to invest, like Mike Williams is going to get probably $15 million a year or something around those lines. I see that his market value is right around that money. That's a lot of money for a guy that I just don't know if I don't know if I can invest that much in him. I don't know. Like, it's not nothing against him. If I could maybe invest that $15 million and get Robinson and Gesicki,
that'd be so much better.
You know what I mean? Even if that's $20 million, right? Even if Gesicki if I can get Gesicki and Robinson for $20 million, or I get Mike Williams and Njoku for 25, I really think that I prefer the Robinson Gesicki combo over Mike. I just feel like nothing against Mike Williams. It's just I don't know.
The other sneaky player to me is, if a Godwin or Robinson or Williams doesn't get franchised, I feel like, and I could be wrong, the Patriots could just go sign Mike Gesicki and have 3 high-priced tight ends that they don't know how to use. But I feel like after Mac Jones did a lot better than some of us maybe thought he would right out of the gate, especially given the weapons that he was provided. The 2 tight end joy days they tried to recreate didn't really work. They may draft a receiver, but I could see them going and getting a good veteran number 1, which would make that team just that much more dangerous.
I agree. Another thing to look at there is I think another team that could be in play for a tight end if Rodgers goes back is Green Bay. Tunyon is a free agent, and somebody's going to throw money on him that they don't have. They don't have the money to sign him to a long-term contract. That they could probably, because the salary cap that at times is a myth, but at the same time, I really feel like I would like to see Dalton Schultz up there in Green Bay. Honestly, like they need, if they're going
to Dallas signs him back and lets Gallup go.
Gallup's another one that I cannot wait. He's another one. I would love to see him out in with the Chargers as well. I like him. I think Gallup is a really good number 2, and I really feel like he got sidestepped a lot because then you brought Lamb in, you had Cooper. He was kind of that, but every time somebody was out, he would step up and really come in and play. So it'll be interesting to see where Gallup ends up as well. So interesting pieces of the puzzle. We're just giving you a little soft look ahead at the free agency, and over the next couple of weeks, once it begins, we'll be able to give a more clearer look, especially when it comes to franchise tags and stuff like that. That really limits, because you franchise tag. The thing about it is, if you franchise tag Adams and Godwin, Mike Williams probably becomes the best receiver on the open market, which then the premium for Mike Williams goes through the roof, right? You know what I mean? Like that's the type of thing that
the Kenny Golladay effect.
No, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then you just get overpaid, which again, I do like Mike Williams, but I'm just cautiously optimistic about him. But with that being said, folks, we appreciate y'all listening and tuning into that portion of the show. We're going to transition over to our favorite segment of the show, which is all of them, but this one in particular, we'd like to talk about the movies in the movie corner, giving you some recommendations to watch this weekend. A few things to bring to light. We have the return of Medea dropping on Netflix. I haven't caught that one yet. I'm looking forward to it. I do like Medea. I think it's good. No slapping, just crazy fun. If you're lucky to be one of the very few people that get to see Cyrano in theaters this weekend, highly recommend it. Matthew Fox is never going to see that movie ever, I don't think.
Why do you hate me?
Of course, we have No Exit on Hulu, which is going to drop on the Banana Meter this weekend, which apparently people liked. I hated it. I watched it last weekend. I put my review up on Hidden Remote, and I absolutely despised the movie. Thought it was terrible. And then, of course, on VOD, you have Desperate Writers. It's a movie that stars Drew Waters as Kansas Red. I interviewed him for the Music City Drive-In. He was Wade Aikman in one of our favorite shows here, Friday Night Lights. Got to talk to him a little bit about that, and I love being able to chat about that because it's one of my all-time favorite shows. But yeah, it's a lackluster weekend for films because next weekend is loaded. You have After Yang on Showtime. You have on Hulu. You have Lucy and Desi on Prime Video, and then you have a little-known movie called The Batman coming out next week. So, which I have seen, and that's about all I can say about me seeing the movie right now. So,
in fact, you may not have been supposed to say that you've even seen it.
I know. I got yelled at on Twitter. It's like, "Are you allowed to say that?" I'm like, "I just said I saw The Batman. Calm down."
I mean, you could have meant that you just saw a guy wearing a cape that swung through downtown Tennessee. You know,
exactly. I mean, I saw Robert Pattinson coming out of Hot Topic. Like, I mean, like I saw him. Like, see, I saw the Batman. There he is, the Batman. So I don't know.
You know, what is it with this year? Has been like feast or famine with movie weeks. Valentine's Day weekend, it was like everybody and their brother released a movie. There was seven releases. And then this weekend, it's like, hey, do you want a subpar horror movie that Hulu happened to have? Do you want to see the 97th edition of Medea?
Like it's weird to me.
Get
Also,
alone with your thoughts in the corner.
you have the show on Hulu dropping, coincidentally enough, called Dropout, that drops today about Elizabeth Holmes.
No, it drops the 3rd of March.
Oh, just the 3rd. That's next week. Never mind. My dates are mixed.
That's the other thing. So March 3rd, there are 6 new shows dropping on streaming.
Nice.
On that day, and then there are like 10
95
movies that open on Friday. I'm like, I don't know what happened. Everybody, for Lent, they were preparing to give up film, and then they were like, no, we can't do it. We're going to have Ash Wednesday, and then we're just going to dump everything on you while you're sitting there enjoying your fish sandwich.
March, and the thing about it is March is actually pretty loaded for films, even though I criticize a couple of the movies that are coming out.
I'm looking forward to Lost City also. That's the
I saw the trailer for that finally, and I really am looking forward to it now. But so we have obviously March 4th. Fresh, can't recommend enough. Cannot recommend enough. I look forward to Matthew Fox hating it.
Is it a horror movie? You never really answered the question of whether it's a horror movie. I gathered from the description it was, and I love Daisy Edgar Jones and Sebastian Stan, so don't put that premature hate on me.
It's not a horror movie in the sense of scary, but it's a different kind of scary. It's like a thriller-ish more so. Lucy and Desi, can't recommend that enough. Of course, March 11th, Turning Red drops, which everybody is mad about because Pixar dropped it on the thing.
Pixar didn't decide to do that.
Disney did. Whatever. Somebody did. And then Master is dropping on Prime Video on March 18th, which came out at Sundance. I really like that. Everything all at once looks incredible. Comes out March 25th. The Lost City, I finally saw the trailer for that. You have the Adam Project, which is coming out, which looks stupid. Sorry, guys. I'm not a Ryan Reynolds guy. He plays Deadpool in every movie. And then, of course, you have the world-famous Deep Water movie dropping on Hulu on March 18th. The Ana de Armas and Ben Affleck movie.
The one that ended their relationship?
Exactly.
What was that Tom Cruise, Nicole Kidman movie?
Yeah, I remember that one too.
It was supposed to be a big, psychological romance movie. I've even seen it, and I blocked it out. This is making for some good radio.
Yeah, exactly. It's making for a great time right now. It's a great time, folks. Watch No Exit or don't watch No Exit. Honestly, I'd rather you probably didn't watch No Exit. Suspicion. I know Matthew Fox had given up.
I've been watching it.
I thought, no, you didn't like
Don't
it?
you put that evil on me. I'm watching all the Apple TV Plus shows. I actually last night saw they dropped the After Party early. It's not Apple, but Marvelous Miss Maisel came back, and it was just a delight.
I don't even know what that is.
You don't track Amazon Prime with the same fervor of a woman who lives in your household that rents or that buys things off Amazon. I'm like, I might as well get something out of Prime. Marvelous Miss Maisel is made by the lady that made the Gilmore Girls. It's basically a fictional version of Joan Rivers' rise in the 50s. It's a female comic.
I'm just kidding.
It's very good. Rachel Brosnahan is the lead.
How many seasons is there of that?
This is the 4th season.
Oh my God, that's so many episodes.
Well, you make time for the things that you love. Eyes Wide Shut is the movie that I couldn't think of before, as I've just looked it up. Deep Water could be the Eyes Wide Shut of this era.
Watch Suspicion. Also watch The After Party, which is also incredible. Apple TV.
I actually like Severance too. The first two of Severance, I'll be honest, I don't know what the hell's happening, but I kind of dug it.
Still my favorite streaming service for TV. I don't care what anybody says. Pachinko's coming out soon, which I actually am getting ready to watch this week to prepare for a press day. I'm excited about that one. What else is coming? Apple TV's got bangers. Oh, We Crashed coming out eventually one of these days.
March 18th.
Yeah, my review.
Actually, this Sunday night, Joseph Gordon-Levitt in the Uber show. That's about the battle for Uber.
Where's that dropping on?
Showtime.
It is. Yeah,
they got Billions going on right now, which it's not the same without Damian Lewis, but I low-key still enjoy it.
I like Billions. I watched the first how many seasons are there? 5, I think there is. 5?
I think this is the 5th. Yeah.
Yeah, I watched the first 3. Showtime has a bad thing of like letting shows go on too long. Like Ray Donovan went on way too long.
And
like,
they're still making movies of Ray Donovan.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like I stopped watching it after like season. I'm like, guys, I've already seen like Ray Donovan can do no more. Like it kind of got like Scandal. Scandal and Ray Donovan are the same show. Like theoretically, they really almost are the same exact show. But Scandal was like a season too long, and I love Scandal. Like
Showtime just also doesn't have. They're not good at marketing. Like HBO, even if you don't like a particular HBO show that's on, you cannot escape the weekly mentions about the episodes and things. I know because I experienced it in December, and I'm experiencing it again.
I'm experiencing it right now because Euphoria is like on my timeline. Everything, every minute. I saw what happened on Peace. I haven't finished Peacemaker, nor do I feel like I need.
Oh, I'm ahead of you then.
I haven't finished Peacemaker because I didn't really need to watch the last episode after it was spoiled for me at 5:30 in the morning the day the show came out of like what everything that happened on the finale. Oh, speaking of which, great shows. Watch Righteous Gemstones. So we're kind of rambling here, but I love Righteous Gemstones. It's one of my favorites.
Don't we always kind of ramble?
So
this is the train of thought that people tune in for.
Exactly. They really do. But with that being said, we're going to get out of here. I'm going to go film a podcast right now after this because I'm going to record a review with my good friend Jacob. We're going to review a little-known movie called The Batman, which you can see drop on Monday via the Music City Drive-In. We'll drop a video of it, and we will drop the audio version. And then I will also drop my written review, which I wrote 726 words on. It was a long, lengthy review that I
challenge accepted.
A lot of reviews, a lot of words about a movie that I may or may not have liked. I cannot tell you anymore. If you got to this point, you probably have listening to this and you're like, what? The Batman? Is there a new one coming out? I had no clue. But make sure to follow Matthew Fox on Twitter at Nighthawk7734. Myself, Ricky Flair _. Make sure to check out the Music City Drive-In for all our latest articles, reviews, and Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and Happy Valentine's Day.